Another thing to review is some basic area formulas that you learned. Rectangle, the area is base times height, or you might have learned it as length times width. Doesn't really matter. You have two dimensions and you're going to multiply to get the area. Now when you look at that picture, when you have a rectangle, if I were to chop it in two, I get two triangles. And so the area of a triangle, you have learned it as 1/2 base times height. And that comes from the area of the rectangle cutting it in half. But if you didn't want to use fractions, we can use this formula saying 2 times the area equals base times height. Meaning we're just taking that 1/2 and multiplying both sides by 2. It's the same formula. The next few deal with area. Looking at number 4, the width of a rectangle is 8 inches less than the length. If you recall from a previous lesson, whatever's mentioned last, I'm going to let that be x. And I'm going to define my variables by drawing a picture. So the width of a rectangle is 8 inches less than the length, so I'm going to let that be x. Then the width is 8 inches less. Now the area of the rectangle is 33 square inches. What are the dimensions? So how do I find the area? I multiply the length and the width, or the base and the height. So I need to multiply those together. I'm going to distribute, set it equal to 0, and factor. So again, leading coefficient of 1, what multiplies to get negative 33 and adds to get negative 8. Negative 11 and a positive 3. Setting both equal to 0. And I still need to find the dimensions. So I have found x, but now wait a minute. Can x be negative? Can you have a negative width? No. So I'm going to throw that out because it cannot be negative. Sometimes you get what's called extraneous solutions. It just doesn't fit what you're looking for. Still not done because I need the other dimension, x minus 8. 11 minus 8 is 3. And if you multiply 11 times 3, you do get 33, and that would be the area. Let's do another rectangle problem. So the length of a rectangle is 3 inches, more than twice the width. So again, I'm going to let whatever's mentioned last in my sentence be x. The length is 3 inches more, so I'm going to add 3 to twice the width. Remember, that's 2 times. That's twice the width. The area is 20 square inches. What are the dimensions? So again, we want to multiply these together. We want to distribute. We want to set them equal to 0. Now I am factoring a trinomial. It does not have a leading coefficient of 1. So I have to try a few things. So I can only have 2 times 1. But for 20, I got 1 times 20, 4 times 5, 2 times 10. Now, let's just review. The 2 and the 10 cannot work because a 2 couldn't go here because a 2 and a 2 have a common factor of 2. A 10 couldn't go there because 2 and 10 are both divisible by 2. So that tells me 2 and 10 doesn't work. Let's try 4 and 5. And I know the 4 can't go with the 2. So let's put the 5 here and the 4 there. I need a positive 3 in the middle. Pause. See if you can figure it out. Do we match? Hope so. So we set both of those equal to 0. solving for x. And again, x is the width of a rectangle. Can it be negative? No. Cannot be negative. Can it be a fraction? Sure. Okay, but that's just x. I need 2x plus 3. So 2 times x plus 3. What happens to those 2's? Yay, they reduce out, and you get 8. So the dimensions are 8 and 5/2. Should say inches. I'm not going to take off for that. The next two examples deal with the area of a triangle. Remember, the formula is 1/2 base times height. But if you don't want to deal with that 1/2, you can write it as twice the area equals base times height. That's what I'm going to use. Because keep in mind, I had a rectangle. If I split it in two, I get two triangles. So that's where that 1/2 came from. Alright, so let's draw a triangle. And it says the base of a triangle is 3 inches shorter than the height. So again, I'm going to let x be what's mentioned last. This is obviously not to scale. The base is 3 inches shorter. That means I'm going to subtract 3 from the height. The area is 27 square inches. So this is a little bit like the rectangle in that you could say I multiply that together, but x times x minus 3 doesn't equal to 27. We'd have to have 27 times 2. Or you put the 1/2 on the other side. I'm going to do it this way. So I have x squared minus 3x equals 54. Got to set it equal to 0. A little bit easier, coefficient of 1. So what multiplies to get negative 54 and adds to get negative 3. Negative 9 and positive 6. And we're solving. One more time. Have to throw out the negative. Cannot be a dimension. So if x is 9, then x minus 3 is 6. So our dimensions are 9 by 6. Last one, we have a triangle again. And it says the base of a triangle is 7 inches less than the height. So I'm going to let the height be x. Whatever's mentioned last just makes it easier. The base is 7 inches less than, so I'm going to subtract 7 from 3 times the height. So 3x minus 7. And my area is 13. So again, I'm multiplying these together. Not equals to 13 because that would be a rectangle, times 2 because 2 triangles make a rectangle. So just like the others, distribute, set it equal to 0, and now we factor. So I know 3 times 1 is 3, but what multiplies to get 26? Well, 1 and 26, but it's even. 2 times 13. Let's try that one. Where do I want to put things? Why don't you pause, see if you can figure it out. So setting both equal to 0. Again, x represents a height. Can't be negative. But I can take a positive. So if x is 13 thirds, I need the other dimension. So that's 3 times 13 thirds minus 7. So that's 13 minus 7, which is 6. So our dimensions are 13 thirds by 6.